Hi friends, I wanted to leave you a little update about what's going on with Jack because I know I haven't done that for months and months now, and I'm going to do it while I drive here and share what's going on with him with you. So anyhow, it's been months. I know it's been months and months now since I said anything about the project, and that's because life has just kind of gotten in the way, and I have not been writing until recently. So Sunday I decided to pull out the manuscript and take a look at it and see if I might do a little more writing, which I did do. So I wanted to give you a few little updates because there are some changes that have been made to the storyline. The first being that if you've read the chapters that I had posted previously, you will know that in the prologue you were introduced, or the reader was introduced to Jack's parents, Ross and Faith. And that's kind of a lengthy prologue, and it gives some really important backstory for the story to move forward. But after listening to some feedback from my editors, I decided that I'm going to take the beginning of the story in a different direction, and I do agree with them. I think it's a better way to start the story so that the reader can get more immediately invested in and build a relationship with Jack, who is the protagonist and the primary character in the story. That doesn't mean that what I wrote about Ross and Faith is going to be lost, but I am taking it out of this first book, and I've decided to do kind of like what they do with Star Wars, and write a prequel afterwards. So I already have at least 6 or 7 more books in the series outlined, and that's one of them. So I'll go ahead and devote a whole book to Ross and Faith and what happens with them and how that impacts Jack and his life and upbringing and everything else. So that's a major change, but I do think that it's just a smoother, better introduction to Jack and to the story in general. So that is a big change that those of you who have read the story up until now will find in the actual published book. The other thing that's a big change is that I've changed the names of a couple of the characters, a couple of core characters, and that is Jack's brother and sister. So up until this point, the story... Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of backstory, a little insight into why I chose the names I did. Some of you, a few insiders, know that the whole storyline is very loosely inspired by my father's real life experience, and some of the characters are individuals in his life. And so my dad, the character of Jack, is based on my dad, and his siblings were Richard, who went by Dick, and his older brother, 3 years older, and his younger sister, who is 2 years younger, named Shirley. Well, this is a young adult fantasy fiction novel, and my editors feel that those names, Richard and Shirley, Richard or Dick and Shirley, are just too old school and outdated, and that young readers won't identify with those names very well. So, and I agree with them, and so I've decided to change those names. And so going forward, Richard or Dick will now be Ethan, and Shirley is Sadie. So those are some big changes in the core story. Anyhow, I am about halfway through the first book. I had, which is the whole story series is called Jack and the Magic Hat Maker, for those of you who don't know. And the first book is called The Golden Telescope. So I've already got about 19 chapters written. Now, with removing the prologue and the backstory about Ross and Faith and what happens to them from the introduction, that kind of influences what happens with a couple of the other chapters. So 2 of the chapters, the initial introduction to Edward, who is Jack's grandfather, who he's never met yet, and his 2 aunts, Inez and Clara. Those chapters are pretty significant chapters, and those of you who've read the story up to this point have shared with me that you really liked those particular chapters. And so I'm going to try really hard to not remove them and to leave them intact in the book going forward. I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to be able to do that. So I'm kind of at a crossroads, or kind of in a quandary right now about how to pursue those 2 chapters. But I'm really going to try to keep them in the first book, because I know that you guys love them and I love them too. So I'll go ahead and try to keep them intact, but I might have to make some adjustments or edits so that they fit the new narrative. Anyhow, I'm going to need some beta readers. So for those of you who would like to volunteer to do that, I will post a link on the Facebook page, and you can sign up for that there. I'm hoping to have the first book finished by the end of this year, by the end of 2019, and so I will need some readers along the way, and I'm not exactly sure how soon I will need readers, but pretty soon, as I'm making changes, and those versions will go out to my beta testers, my beta readers, not testers, sorry, my beta readers first. So let me know if you're interested in doing that, and if so, that would be great. And I will look forward to hearing back from all of you, and you can expect to hear more from me as I'm able to write more.